Hi, Terry here again. A couple of days later this week, last couple of mornings we've had workers from the city coming in and out doing different stuff. So it's been kind of interrupting and noisy. So it's Saturday rather than my usual Thursday. This morning, the past few days, week actually, I've been thinking about a tool I've used for decades that I call my intensity scale, my interactive intensity scale, or the intensity scale I see in other people. And I have the scale that starts at 1 and goes up to 10. And a rating of 1 would be somebody just talking to me or interacting very comfortably, and just, it could be, intense stuff or very light stuff, just talking to each other and saying, I'm kind of feeling this, or I'm sensing this, or what do you think about this? It's a calming, more peaceful conversation. And a person who reaches a scale of 10 is just virtually out of control. Rage or intimidation or getting in your face, whatever terms we would use. And then people kind of go back and forth along that scale. And fortunately, most of my interactions are more toward level 1, 2, or 3. They might get a little bit emotional or a little bit intense, but generally stay pretty calm. But then this past week or two, I ran into conversations that either directly or indirectly that went up to that 7 to 10 scale very quickly. And in my mind, without a prompting from the environment, but something was going on that just, they skipped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and went to 7, 8, 9, 10 immediately. And I've wondered over the years why people do that, and I've come up with kind of a list of reasons to do it. Some people do it because they like to bully and they're mean. So that's their way of interacting with people. They have just found that if they tend to speak very loudly and get in your face and be very intense, for one thing, it makes them feel powerful, but it also causes people to back off or to become quieter so they can dominate. So it's unfortunate, but there are some folks that do that. Sometimes people go right to a level 7 to 10 because they are out of control. There's a rage going on inside of them, and sometimes I would get into a conversation, or in my career life, I'd be in a counseling situation where somebody would just almost explode, but I knew it wasn't the situation we were in. It wasn't something that I had done or that I was causing. It was something that had built up pressure in their life, and in the counseling situation, they had permission just to explode that way, just to get it out. The unfortunate thing is sometimes when people have that kind of rage or frustration or things that have accumulated, they'll go into a conversation with someone and just unload all of a sudden. And it's like the other person is wounded, is hurt. It feels like a bullying kind of thing. Again, inappropriate. Other times people might feel threatened, that they get into a situation where somebody says something, that they become very defensive, and by becoming defensive, depending upon culture, in my Dutch culture, you get very quiet. You just build up a wall. In other cultures or in other situations, people, when they get threatened, they, again, get very intense very quickly. So there are various reasons that people jump to that 7 to 10. And I'm not saying it's never appropriate. Sometimes if someone's doing a 7 or 10, just to protect yourself, it's good to do a 7 or 10 back. That generally does not help the situation, but I can't say it's never appropriate. But I have some basic rules that I live by, some goals that I have for myself. And first of all, my first goal is when I interact people to try to always begin at 1, 2, or 3. Talk with them more calmly, share, even if it's something that's a tough topic or something we need to confront together. Always try at a 1, 2, or 3, just to talk calmly and try to help them remain that way as well. A second one is very close to that, is to not match the intensity of someone else. In almost every situation, if somebody responds with a 7 or 10, in my culture, trying not to shut down, but trying to respond. And a classic counseling phrase sometimes helps with that, where somebody explodes a 7 or 10. The counseling phrase is, it sounds to me like you're feeling blank because blank. So it sounds to me like you're feeling very frustrated or angry or almost on the point of rage or out of control because, and then reflect back some of the things they've been saying. Sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times to keep reflecting back, where hopefully it brings their level back down a little bit. And then seek to, I guess, hard to put another way, to avoid as much as possible those people that operate at a 7 to 10. Those that, because they're bullying or because they live with rage or whatever, just saying, at this stage of my life and being retired from career life, so I don't need to be in the presence of such people, just to say, what, I am going to not spend much time with them. So for myself, trying to help people go back to a 1, 2, a 3 as much as possible. Seeking myself to keep responding that way no matter what the environment. And then to, I guess, eliminate, I'm not saying ruthlessly eliminate, but eliminate people that live in those ranges. That intensity of that 5 to 10 is just their, I guess my 5 to 10 would be their 1 to 10. So if they're at a 5 or a 6 intense, they feel like they're calm. And with my scale, it's a very, very different thing. So I don't know if that scale will help you or not. And I do feel badly if you're living in a family situation or a career situation where you need to be or feel like you need to be in contact so much with 7 to 10 type interactive people. For me, it's abusive. For me, it's hard to imagine that not closing your spirit or bringing tension and rage into your life. I hope you have the freedom to back off from those relationships as much as is appropriate and live in that 1 to 3 range. And if you're feeling the kind of tension that moves you into that, then it's finding ways to bring that tension down in your life. It might be through counseling, where, in a counseling situation with a good therapist or a counselor, you can work your way through that. But just think about that. When you're interacting with someone, when you feel yourself rising up, just maybe trying to say, maybe I can bring that back down in myself. Or when you're seeing someone else, to be able to almost step back and say, oh, I know what that is. That person is responding to a 7 or a 7 to 10 range. That's what's going on. It's tough to do that real time, but just recognize, that's what's happening. And it may not be appropriate. Matter of fact, sometimes you could say to yourself, that's just not appropriate. I wonder what's going on in that person's life or who that person is. So think about that. The intensity scale in yourself, but I would say certainly looking at those around you and seeing how they operate. And if you have interactions with a person who normally functions at 1 to 3 and all of a sudden they're at 7 to 10, it's like, what happened today? Or what's been accumulating in that person's life? I wonder what prompts that. So it's the intensity scale. Give it some thought. I have been for the last couple of weeks renewing my understanding of it. Have a great week.